ship. It's just that easy. You can shop.
Fresh inventory are rolling into Glenn Smith Chevrolet in Opelika. Check out the powerful new Chevrolet Silverado.
We'll keep fighting through it. We got to figure out a way. To fight through it as well. But Georgia Tech.
And as excited as we were, Thursday to get things going for high school, I think almost as equally as excited for college football, and a lot of new changes. But Florida State, a team that kind of has some high expectations as well, should be contending for a playoff berth, and a good way to kick things off.
Yeah, no doubt. So really the only game of note there to talk about from a top 25 perspective. And Florida State, number 10, I think 5 or 6 5-stars. This is as many as they've ever had in any recruiting cycle, even with Nick Saban. So the momentum's still around Alabama. They still have high expectations. But when you make a coaching change, it's been a long time since Alabama had to go through a coaching change. You're a little skeptical of, it's just human nature. How are we going to be? What are we going to look like? What's going to be different? What's going to be the same? What are your expectations, or what are your thoughts about this program moving in to the 24 season?
When the hire initially took place, I was a little skeptical on, anybody coming in to replace Nick Saban was going to have a difficult task, but I wasn't sure how the recruiting.
Kalen DeBoer seems to be embracing this.
Yeah, well, see, I think that he's a West Coast guy, got kind of got the different vibe to himself, and so worst case, I think too, and we talk about it on the flip side of it a lot of times, but there's really not a lot of pressure. You want to be competitive if you're in this environment, but if it doesn't work out, you're getting a massive buyout, and you'll probably land somewhere else because you just had one of the premier jobs in the country. But saying that, if the recruiting success correlates to the field success, then they're just going to continue to rock and roll. But still, I want to see what Jalen Milroe looks like under this system. Defensively, secondary, kind of maybe an area of concern in some regards. But overall, they'll be competing for a playoff berth, and 10-2, 10-2. I think is probably somewhere in that range.
I think anything less than that's disappointment, obviously. And I think the key getting to the playoffs is 12-team playoff this year. So new look for college football. That would be a massive disappointment for Alabama fans if the first year of the playoff they don't make the 12-team playoff. I think they would have to have a massive collapse to not make the playoffs of some proportion there. But again, SEC championship will be done differently. There are no divisions now with Texas and Oklahoma in the SEC. So you take the top 2 teams overall. I don't think anybody's crying about not getting one of those spots, Scott. I mean, you look at it from a standpoint of
extra game.
Get an extra game. Would you rather have the rest?
Yeah.
You want to win the SEC. It's important. You don't want to diminish that, but you also want to give yourself the best opportunity to win a national title. And so that talk has been pretty rampant the last few weeks about, hey, if I don't make the SEC championship games, not the end of the world, as long as I make the 12-team playoff.
Yeah, and I think that there are 2 to 3 teams who kind of are on the periphery of that same way. Somebody like an Ole Miss, who you look and say, even if we didn't get there, we're probably in playoff contention. And I like the expansion of the playoffs, but it does just take a little bit away from the regular